All right, we are live with August EXP Monthly, and this one was over Fear Combat. How are you doing, Shadow? Good to see you here in chat. Um, so yeah, quick overview on Fear. Uh, it is a first-person shooter. It's one of the earlier games, if not the first, to specifically be a psychological horror shooter. It came out in 2005 originally, but then had ports to console on Xbox 360 and PS3. It was put out by Monolith, who also developed and put out Shogo, our first EXP monthly game, which came out in '98. So this was 7 years later, and there's a lot of the DNA kind of see from Shogo that made its way over to Fear. And I will just kind of go around the table. I'll just start off. I am Filbert, and we'll kick it over to Blue. If you want just a quick introduction.
I'm Blue. I play games sometimes. I just got back from vacation in Germany, but I did have time to run through the base game at least before I went. I didn't have time to get to the DLCs before I went and came back, so didn't tackle those. But I also didn't tackle them when the game originally came out, so I guess they're getting a parallel experience to when I played it the first time around.
Pixel?
Hey guys, I'm Pixel. You probably already know me from the Game Dave Discord. I did get around to playing the base game of Fear this time. I did not do it 20 years ago, but I was aware of the game. Did not do any of the DLC at all, unfortunately. I just kind of stuck with the main story, but I'll be giving my reflections and thoughts on that primarily.
Finally, Vinny.
Hello, I'm Vinny C. That Who I Be, and this is not Minecraft, I'm afraid. But I did play through the DLCs back in the day. I did not play through them this time. But I do remember really enjoying the whole Fear experience when it came out. So I was really looking forward to this one. Glad I actually made the time to at least finish the single player game. It's a lot harder to finish games nowadays.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm in that same boat. I only play. I was hoping to get to the DLC, but just didn't. I also had vacation stuff come up at the end of the month, so I was kind of gone, or else I probably would have got to it. But yeah, I think I'll quickly go over the synopsis of Fear as far as its plot goes, and just for the base story. This should be pretty quick. Fear does have a decent chunk of story going on. You're playing as the. I don't think your character actually has a name. They just call you Point Man. And you're part of the first encounter assault recon, which is basically in this game a branch of the U.S. military that tackles paranormal threats to the U.S. And
You're a
I actually
Ghostbuster.
you're a modern day Ghostbuster, but with violence.
More violent.
I actually didn't realize when I was playing the game until I was kind of doing a little bit of research today. The game takes place in 2025. If that was
I
announced in the
saw
game,
that.
Wow, how timely.
I
Yep.
didn't
Okay.
I missed it. But yeah, you basically you're brand new. It's essentially like your first mission. You go in to take out what his name is Fetzel.
Exton Fettel.
Yep.
Yep.
Who you quickly find out has taken over a group of like clones that this company has been like making and training of these elite clone soldiers. And essentially most of the game is you're kind of tracking them down, and as you track them down you start picking up bits of lore and like why he's doing what he's doing. And it essentially comes down that he was cloned from the little girl we all know and love from the cover and many of the little cutscenes in the game, Alma, and is trying to get her released. She eventually gets released, and this causes you to set off like nuclear fusion reaction in the city to destroy her, and the game ends where everyone except people living probably within like 3 miles of the facility in the middle of the city explode, and you just fly off in your helicopter looking at the nuclear explosion. But you also do find out your character was also like part of the origin program and is also a child of Elma, the little girl on the cover, who essentially was captured and tortured and being used for all these clone soldier experiments. But that is kind of the plot in a very brief, basic nutshell. So we all kind of touch on this a little bit, but we'll kind of go around one more time. So I played Fear way back when it came out. I have probably not played it since like 2005 or 6. Other than Fear Combat, me and Blue played a ton in college. We That was like one of the primary LAN party games we used to play with some of our friends. Uh, but this was when this game came out was the time my brother got like our first like legit gaming computer. So my older brother just got in college and he dropped a ton of money on making a gaming computer, and it was like this and the first Far Cry. I remember we got those games max settings, and it's just like holy shit, stuff looks so good. It's the first time like you're not struggling the first like 3 days of owning the newest game, just trying to get it to run at like 20 FPS. It's like I could just install it and crank the settings. But because it had been so long, I essentially remembered nothing. Playing through the game, it was one of those games where there's a lot of cutscenes or moments that would like I remember this as soon as it started to happen, but I did not remember much else other than a little bit of the enemy types, and so because that was still pretty nostalgic for me to go back to. Yeah, but yeah, that was kind of my experience coming into this. Been probably 19 years since I played it. Had and it's essentially a first time playthrough for me because of that. So, uh, if Blue, if you want to go in about kind of your history.
I mean, it's pretty similar to yours. We probably picked up the game around the same time when its initial release occurred, and then, yeah, I basically haven't gone back and touched it since then. I have dipped my toes into like Fear Combat since then for LAN parties, even after college. Uh, so I was a little more familiar with like the gunplay aspects, which translate to multiplayer. But actually playing through like the storyline and everything in single player hadn't happened in like 2 decades or whatever, or a decade. So yeah, it was also a nostalgia trip. I definitely remembered like the major story beats as they came up, but yeah, um, long time without playing. But I definitely, as soon as we um, played Shogo, and then I knew that Fear was on deck, I was really excited to go back and play it again. Um, just because I remembered it was so much fun the first time around.
All right, Pixel. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry, can you hear
Oh,
me?
yep.
There you go.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I don't really have much of a history with Fear. I was playing on Xbox Live at the time, so I did have friends that were getting into the game, and they would kind of tell me about it. And it always seemed kind of interesting to me, but I just didn't really have a lot of exposure. I was playing quite a bit of Halo 2, and a lot of other shooters at the time. So Fear, unfortunately, kind of passed me by, but I was excited to go back and try it because I love horror games and I love shooters, and combining both, I mean, is great. So when I jumped in, I was pretty much immediately drawn to it. I was like, yeah, this is right up my alley. I don't know why I ever missed it, but it's perfect. So um, having watched Filbert and Blue playing Shogo, I did watch the podcast or listen to the podcast and watch it. And hearing you guys talk about Shogo and seeing some of the gameplay, made me kind of bummed that I really missed out on that because that looked like something I also would have enjoyed. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Fear has been on my list for a while. This is the time to try it.
All right, Vinny, how about yourself?
So Fear came out right around the same time that I had just moved out of my parents' house. I was actually living in an apartment with my roommate, who I actually mentioned in my previous video that I posted. Uh, and this was one of the main games that we would play. Surprisingly, we never really got into the multiplayer aspect. We really only like did the single player for some reason. But I specifically remember like this was like the first like real scary game that I played. So like we were both kind of like we'd turn off the lights and play it. We kind of had like a LAN party set up just kind of all the time. And it was either this or like Battlefield or Half-Life 2 or something. And we just hear the other person like kind of not scream, but you'd see the screen light up or something and see them jump while we're playing. Uh Playing it now, it felt a little more like walking through a haunted house, which is fine. It's expected. A little older now. Uh, Definitely still fun. And so I never played Max Payne either, surprisingly. So this was like the first game that had like the slow motion kind of gunplay. So for me, this was like kind of a mind blowing, like, this is awesome, especially when you get, I'm going to say it, the penetrator. That's what it's called. I'm sorry. But using that in slow motion and seeing like those guys just get nailed to the wall and stuff, like that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the first. I think the first thing we can talk about is the slow mo, and I think the reflex time is what they call it in this. And uh, I never had played Max Payne before this. I probably I would have experienced that with Dead to Rights. I played, but that game did a much more basic version of this. But this, I even back like Max Payne and stuff. I believe Max Payne was like this, but a lot of these games when they did the slow mo, like everything went in slow mo. This game, you still practically move at your normal speed and rate, and everyone else is moving slow compared to you. So that was definitely unique. But if there's one aspect of this game that I think holds up better than any other, I think it's that slow mo mechanic. It is so fun. Like every time, it's like I was always looking forward to when there's like a big firefight, and like I had like a really good excuse to use it because it is always like when you come across one or two guys. All right, sometimes I'll use it, sometimes I wouldn't. But it's like, all right, I'm fighting like there's 10 soldiers attacking me. I have to use it to like get through this fight. I was playing it on the one difficulty above normal, so I think I had like four. But I think one of them was called normal. I went one above, and for the most part, I didn't die too much. But it there were some challenging engagements where you kind of have to make sure you have that mechanic down.
Yeah, they didn't really like, I mean, they vaguely touched on it at the beginning, but they never really expand on it. They're just like, you can do slow-mo, have fun. And
Yep.
it's like they could have done a little more to explain that, or at least do something with it. Like
Yeah.
the commander guy's just like, I've seen his reflex time, he'll be fine. Like that's the explanation until later, of course.
Yeah, I think it's definitely implied that because you're a child of Alma or whatever her name is, it's like you have that super enhanced ability. But yeah, I definitely think it is just kind of like you just have this ability, and just everyone's just like,
Yeah,
yeah, oh
have
yeah, that
fun with
guy,
it.
that guy can just Red Dead like shoot 100 people before they have a chance to
Of
like
course.
draw their gun. Uh, I think as a kid, or I would have been like a teenager when I played this. I just like assumed that was kind of part of being in fear, like you were somehow enhanced, But yeah, I do think they should have lore wise touched on it more at the beginning, because yeah, you're just which all shooters are, but in this game you're just like a legit just man army just running around.
Like, did they even explain? Like, they probably said like push the button to do slow mo. I don't even remember that coming up. I think I just remembered how to do it, and it's like, here, go for it.
Yeah, I think there's a tooltip like early on, like when you in like the first level that tells you how to do it.
Yeah, there's like an on-screen prompt when you're
Yeah.
fighting a couple of guys. I don't think it comes up ever, ever after that.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
it
little.
comes up. It comes up in the tooltips that are on the loading screens too. Like one of the tooltips is like, "Are you in a hard fight? Try slow mo. It makes everything easier," or whatever.
Well, it's like if you had the ability to fly or something, and they didn't offer any explanation. They're like, push this button to fly over your enemies. It's like, yeah, but why does this happen?
Yeah, definitely. I remember back playing it, thinking it. Of course, it kind of had the Matrix bullet like ripple effect, and thinking that was super like cool. Even though this was 6 years after the Matrix. This is like kind of towards the end of all that like Matrix. Like it needs to be in everything, like some aspect of this, but it definitely had its own kind of flavor of it. But I did feel like some of the bigger fights it was needed. The one thing I was struggling with it was super fun to use, but anytime I just ran across like one or two soldiers, I almost didn't like using it because it felt like a little bit of a crutch at times. Because there's really no expenditure to it. It refills super quick. You
Hmm.
really need it for some of the tougher fights, but a lot of times I would come across like two or three soldiers going slow mo and just pop, pop, pop them all, and then be like, oh, that is almost too easy.
Yeah. Speaking from having played the game on normal difficulty and not one of the harder ones, I can definitely say that essentially any fight that I used slow mo in, it wasn't quite an auto win, but it was basically like, all right, this fight is now very easy. Like it seemed like you took a lot less damage when you were in slow mo, and it seemed like the enemies had like no good accuracy. Like it was a lot harder for them to hit you when you were in slow mo, versus when you just like normally were walking around where they like had pretty decent accuracy, like under normal circumstances.
What
So yeah, it was in normal difficulty almost to like, all right, we're gonna win this fight now, button.
what I really
Uh,
liked
I
about
felt no
playing
guilt.
this man has no soul. Uh, what I really liked about using it, playing on hard, and a lot of these games, I always like to go like hard or a little bit more challenging, just because I feel like sometimes you need it for kind of the best experience. But what I liked about hard was there would be fights where there would be like 4 or 5 guys coming at you at once, and depending on the situation, it's like I'd go in slow mo. It's like you can try and finish one guy off. It's like I can try and finish like two of the guys off before my slow mo runs out, or the stagger mechanic when whether you're in there or not. It's like there's like I'm making the choices and you have time to make it because it's in slow motion. It's like, all right, this guy just staggered and fell. He's not dead, but do I start changing targets to cause more stagger and try to get kills, or do I focus on kind of eliminating target? Because I think conventionally in a shooter, it's almost always like focus fire kill a guy. You don't want to spread the damage, and the slow mo in this game, I think there's like good tactics to spread the damage because of the guys falling. It takes them time to get back up, and because of the slow motion, you have more reaction time to choose targets and focus down people. Especially if someone has like a shotgun or something, where it's like, I can't let the guy get close. He
Yep.
needs to go away.
You used something other than the shotgun?
The nail gun or
Oh,
the
well,
penetrator.
yes. Please refer to it properly.
The nail gun.
It's
Oh, okay.
interesting because I used the shotgun early on to a degree, and then like halfway through, not halfway through, but probably like a third of the way through the game, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try some of the other base guns. I don't know, I still think the SMG is my favorite, but that thing eats through ammo so much that like you use it for like 2 fights and you're like, all right, well, fun time over. Now we go back to now we go back to the shotgun or
The
whatever.
trusty old shotgun.
You know, that's actually something I do kind of want to bring up. I have some notes on this game that I wanted to kind of talk about. One of them being that the game, because it has such a limited ammo pool for weapons, very often forces you to switch. And I actually kind of like that about the game. Enemies will very often have different weapon types. They'll have the SMG, the penetrator, the shotgun, whatever it is. And you will have to cycle through weapons because you can't rely on always picking up ammo. But I kind of enjoy that because that forces you into this aspect of learning how these weapons function and how you can best utilize them, whether that's in slow mo or not. I actually kind of really enjoy that about the game. I will say that about slow-mo though, I really didn't use it much, probably because I again also only played on normal. Usually when I'm going through a game the first time around, I will only play normal or kind of just do that as my first run. And then if I really enjoy it, I'll go for higher difficulties in subsequent playthroughs. But I didn't really use slow-mo too much in the game. I knew of it, but kind of like Blue, I knew that if I used it, it was basically the I win button.
And speaking of weapons, I felt like I ran into that a lot in the beginning, where I was having to switch weapons. For most of the game, I was using the shotgun and what the nail gun or the penetrator, if you want to go actually on me.
Thank you.
Except the penetrator is hard to keep ammo for. So a lot of times then I would go to the assault rifle if I ran out of ammo. I like the assault rifle, but it was so ugly. I almost didn't want to use it on principle. I was like, this it might be the ugliest assault rifle in a shooter. It just is bulky, big, and for being like a futuristic game, especially at the time, it looked like some old machine gun from like the 60s, like an M60 or whatever like the Americans used to use. I think my favorite gun though was that I did like the particle gun that shot like the laser.
That had a pretty cool effect when you hit a regular soldier with it, for
Yeah,
sure.
they turn
Just
into like the
vaporize
like-
skeleton.
them. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is like they'll just appear as a skeleton with fire around them or whatever,
Yeah.
but you'll still hear a yell.
Yeah.
It's like you're
How's
already a
that possible?
skeleton.
I think I would have switched off the shotgun sooner because so many firefights were at range where it was really hard to utilize the shotgun. But when you cause someone to just explode into just a fountain of mist and there's just a couple limbs, it's just like I can't
Yes.
can't
Yeah.
drop it.
Yeah.
We have to.
That is yeah, that is too much fun. My dual combo was shotgun and penetrator. And I tried to stick with that as often as I could because one of each I was more than happy with. There were other weapons, and I definitely enjoyed them, but seeing people just explode into this mist of blood to me was just really fun.
That's kind of the same thing with the grenades for me. In a lot of games, I don't use grenades because I'm like, oh, I have to save them. I might need them for some big fight. But in this, like throwing a grenade in slow mo and just watching it like bonk on a guy's head and just was so satisfying every time.
Yep.
I do think the most fun weapon for me to use was that like autocannon gun. I forget what it. You didn't get it until pretty late into the game, and then you only found it a few
Yeah.
times. But when I would get that thing, I'll have like a shotgun or an assault rifle that was full on ammo, and I'm like, nope, I don't care. This only has like 20 shots. It's like we're using
Yeah.
it.
You'll drop the other one.
That's like one of those weapons that it's just so satisfying. The sound, the impact, the damage.
I
It's like,
think I used that one a lot on those turrets that were on the ceiling.
oh yeah,
Really, really good for that. Just pop,
Those
pop, and shoot.
turrets suck. Can I
Yeah,
say that?
yeah.
Like they aren't hard to avoid getting hit by, but they just like they're bullet sponges. You sit there and empty your whole clip into them.
and there's the one
But it's like
level. you walk in a hallway and the one comes down. It's like one of the times they died. I'm shooting it, then I'm getting lit up, and another one drops behind
Behind you.
you.
Yep.
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 There's that one like hallway. I'm like,
That.
these dirty bastards.
They knew what they were doing
Yeah.
when they made that part.
Well, they like set it up, you know, like the I feel like the game is trying to send the message of like, don't try and fight these head on. Like the initial
Yes.
fight where you first see them, you're like, you have to go hide and like shoot a gate open or whatever to go around it, basically. And I mean, you can still always like bullet sponge it. But I feel like the game is trying to push you towards like, hey, go like explore and move around the turrets rather than fighting each one individually. I mean, obviously you can, but I feel like it's, I don't know, the author's intent or whatever, the programmer's intent to be like,
Yeah,
yeah,
and I
don't
think
just
that
like wander around and try and kill everything
yeah,
instantly.
and I think that they might also be pushing you into that aspect of slow-mo, saying, "Hey, don't forget this mechanic. We're
Yeah.
gonna put you in a spot where you're in a risky situation. You might need this."
And I do think some of them. I guess I don't know for sure because I 100% every time I see a I was like that has to die. Like that can't. That I will not stand for an enemy to be alive, even if it's a robot. But I think a lot of them they had like power switches, where if you, because a lot of times I'll destroy a turret, then I'll walk around and be like, oh, there's like a power switch or something here. I'm pretty sure, like the intent was like, oh, hide from the turret, go down this little spot and pull the switch, and it's turned off. But not the way I did it. Nope.
Single-minded destruction.
But yeah, so when it came to the grenades, I know early on I was kind of using a lot of the basic grenade, like the general grenade, and they give you like the proximity mine and what was the other one? The remote
Remote
detonation.
detonated. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I wasn't using those much at all until probably mid game. And it was just kind of like I forgot about them. But then when I started to use them, I really enjoyed them because, especially the proximity mine, at first I was like, these are kind of useless. But if we talk about a little bit of like the AI of the game, I think those are super good in some of those big fights because you can like throw them because the enemies are gonna come and flank you. So it's like if you throw some in like one of the hallways or something, like you just run the other way, start shooting guys, and then you'd hear the explosions. But yeah, mid game, I really started to utilize all three types of my grenades and the remote. I usually save those like remote detonators for like the bigger robot things. But if I ever had five of them, it's like all right, I'm gonna just use two of them on the next group of guys that way. Because as much as I hate not having grenades in games like this, I hate when I'm full on grenades and I come and there's like three grenades on a table. And my
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's like
You're
I
doing it
can't.
wrong.
Yeah, I'm
We're
doing it
leaving
wrong.
firepower on the table.
Yep. Yep. I think I feel the same way about the grenades. However, I will say I did end up using one of the or actually all my proximity mines in one section of the game where you're in the apartments and the robot, I think, either comes through the roof or the
Oh,
floor.
yeah.
I can't recall what it is. That caught me off guard. I did not anticipate that, and I was very close to dying during that part. So I panicked and looked for my mines, ran away, and started deploying them behind myself, waiting for it to chase me, and eventually won. But that part forced me to use them because otherwise I would have forgotten that they existed. And then, like you said, the remote detonation grenades or the bombs, those were helpful too.
Yeah, I know that spot you're talking. That was one of the spots I died because it can't comes down like right on top of you and just annihilates you. And
Yep.
those
Yep.
robots take so much damage to die. So the second time, it's like, all right, I know it's coming. But then I was just unloaded like everything. I think I had rocket launchers and a bunch of rocket launcher ammo. So as soon as it came down, and even then, it's like it almost killed you because on hard, those can like nearly one shot you if they hit you clean.
They were very nasty enemies, um, which I think worked pretty well for like they almost always showed up in like wide open areas, so it was like sort of the
Yeah, this was
telegraphing
a
that the
change of
game was
pace.
Yeah, yep. It
Yeah.
was telling you like, okay, we're gonna go into a different section now, and then they subverted that later on by dropping
Yeah.
it in that little area. So it's another sort of like horror aspect to it, where they sort of train you to expect it, and then go against that to trick you.
And
I was kind of surprised how many like I wouldn't call them major plot points, but like maps in the game or things that happen specifically in this area or that area that I remembered. Like I specifically remembered the encounter with that mech that you're talking about. And I remembered that room towards the beginning that's just like soaked with blood on the floor and ceiling and your team is there. Like I remembered like all of these random things in the game. I guess it like really kind of stuck with me the first time I played it all those years ago. So it was kind of cool to see him again. And it's like, yeah, I remember, 20 how when did this come out?
2005.
2005.
2000
2005.
2000,
Yeah.
yeah.
So 20
20
years, yeah.
years ago.
Hmm.
Well, I
Yeah,
feel
good
like a lot of
good
that
stuff.
comes down to the game is very linear, right? Like you go from one map to the next, and there is no real deviation. You can't really avoid the story at all, but it allows them to sort of like handcraft every single. Well, I mean, every single room, every single encounter is like the developer being like, okay, what are we doing in this room? Do we want it to be a combat room? Do we want it to be a spooky room? Do we want it to be a, you know, NPCs talking at you room?
They
So I
did
feel like it's
kind
like
of have
laser focused.
they did have like, okay, now you're in the haunted house section. Okay, now you're in the shooting section. They didn't really mix them much as far as I'm recalling, maybe towards the end, but
Yeah, and I think they it's like one of those things where I think it's both a strength and a weakness when it comes to like some of that level design, because I do think they did a good job about generally in a shooter like this. I appreciate like a linear, like you have your level you're going through, especially when it can be crafted with like these set piece fights. And they also did a good job about rewarding explore you going and exploring. Like there's always some gate you can break open or event you can go through, and you get rewarded with like permanent health increase or permanent reflex increase, and as well as just like more weapons and med kits and all that. So, but at the same time, and it happened when I was streaming, and I didn't. I only streamed like the first half of this game I played. The other half I just streamed in Discord, and like Blue and Taylor watching me play. But this game had multiple times where I feel like I'm really good at like mapping levels in my head, especially shooters, and I always attribute it to playing Doom back in the day, where I can just go through a level and I just have that mental map of it. But this game had multiple times where I'm like, I have no idea where the fuck I'm supposed to go. Like they
There's
I
no visual cues or
yeah.
anything.
It's like give me my
I
yellow
I
paint,
did have
god damn it.
I did have to look up one time what to do, and it was simply because it was one of those now go back to where you started things.
Yeah.
It's like I already went here. Why would I go back there?
Yes.
But
I
that's what
did
you were
have that.
supposed to do. So they
I did
got me
have that too.
once.
So
There were also a couple things in the game that kind of made me scratch my head a little bit. Like the game is so dark and they give you a flashlight, but your
Yeah.
flashlight expires only for it to recharge so that you can use it again. There wasn't like a resource that you could pick up to recharge it or anything. So I was like, well, why even really recharge it at all? Because if it recharges so quick, I'm essentially waiting a couple seconds for it to come back just so I can find my way again. And I did think that was a little strange because I didn't really get lost too often, but when I did, I couldn't see where I was going without it.
yeah, and I think that was definitely their. I assume their idea was like we want the horror aspect where sometimes your flashlight goes out. So I played with that feature on because I wanted especially it being a horror game. I was just like, all right, if this is gonna enhance the horror experience, I want to play as kind of the devs intended. But probably 2 hours in, I was like, nope. So the Echo Patch mod, you can edit the INI to just have infinite flashlight, and that's what I did because I was just like, this is doing nothing but being frustrating. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
not
it
making it
Just
doesn't
like
make it
slowing the
more
pace.
scary.
Right. Right.
Um,
But it was
so
obvious that they went through and handed like all the lighting across all the levels very specifically to like draw your eye to certain places and people and certain. So I kind of get the idea of like, okay, we want lighting to be like an important part of the experience. So let's give a flashlight that isn't always reliable to a degree. But then they also do the thing where when anything spooky is happening, your flashlight just like glitches out and all the lights start going crazy. So it's like, okay, well, it's affected just like everything else. So yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I think the flashlight, and I wonder how it's handled in the other games. I don't recall. I don't think I've played any of the sequels to this. Um, but
So
yeah,
the expansions aren't even like considered
they're not
actual
canon.
sequels,
Yeah,
apparently.
yeah.
I know I played the second one.
Yeah, I read Fear 2 just ignores everything that happens in the two expansions for this one.
Oh wow.
Hmm.
But yeah, going back, I felt like the level design was really good. It's one of those games I think the level design was generally really good until it wasn't. Because there were a handful of times where I got stuck, or Blue was watching me stream, and he's like, all right, I got stuck at this part for like 10 minutes. Just go to the
Yeah.
spot. And I was like, thank God, because I probably would have been stuck here for 10 minutes just running around. And so it's like, I think if you're doing this game like now, there'd be aspects that you would just little things to just direct the player. Like after like the backtrack spots, like once you backtrack, like make sure it's clear, like on a radio call or something, like, hey, go back to this point. Like make sure the players know. Because yeah, that was frustrating a couple times when it did kind of happen. And but generally, I do think it was good. The level designs I did appreciate.
They
And
used
this is
a
something.
good audio cue in that one. Sorry, they used a
Finish your
good
thought.
audio cue in that one spot where you hear the cell phone ringing and
Oh
like
yeah, in the
there's blood
ceiling.
coming from the
Yeah,
ceiling. Like
Yeah.
that was a cool way to get you to figure it out. Whereas the part that I think we're all referring to, where you like backtrack to the elevators,
yep.
like there was no audio cue, there was no visual cue to go back there. It's just you're expected to wander around like what the heck am I supposed to do and stumble across the starting point. The part where you shoot the ceiling though, like that was a cool use of you figuring out what to do.
Yeah. I really appreciated that. That was such a cool part.
They needed more of that. I don't think there was too much of that in the game.
Yeah. And it's an interesting thing that, and this comes from having played Shogo right before this. There were numerous times in Shogo where the same thing occurred, and similar to that one, that the occasion with the elevators is the most egregious example in Fear for sure. But that happened multiple times in Shogo. I think primarily due to just the fact that it was an old like Shogo was an older game. It was kind of in that same sort of Doom mindset where the maps are maze like, and part of the skill set that you are expected to cultivate is like, all right, go map this level and figure out what it looks like, which I think is a different like effect than what they were trying to accomplish with Fear. Which so I feel like they mostly nailed it, but yeah, there were like a couple of specific times where it was just like they dropped the ball on properly sort of signposting where you're supposed to go and what the expectation is. Um, but for the most part, I think it was good.
Yeah, I know for me too. I think part of it with Shogo, it had been so long since I played it, I didn't remember all of it, but I remembered a lot more of it than Fear. So part of me when I played Shogo, I only got stuck in one part where I had to look because I'm like I don't remember where to go, and it's not clear. But for the most part in Shogo, I felt like the levels are a little bit more simplistic, where you can kind of you're kind of just gonna run into the right spot. It's like if as soon as you stop running into enemies, you're kind of going the wrong way, and you're probably backtracking. Because that was one thing that did surprise me about this game, and I don't think it was like a bad thing. Was there were there are like significant segments in this game where you don't run into anyone, and there's like even I think a lot of games would be like jump scaring you. This one definitely had its like jump scares and stuff time to time, but this game didn't go like crazy. Like there's just sometimes you're just walking through like an office building, listening to people's messages on their phones, and that's like what
They
you're doing
leave
for
some
5 minutes.
pretty inappropriate messages on these work phones.
I kind of like that they did not rely on jump scares in an era where I think there were quite a bit of uh especially in that 2005 range. There were just so many horror games coming out at the time that kind of relied on that aspect of jump scares, and this really didn't have a lot of it. Probably had maybe one or two, but they weren't really all that egregious.
They
The
do
one
stick out in my mind though. Like I remembered some of the specific ones that got me 20 years ago. Like when you go down the ladder and she's like right there on top of the ladder as you like descend. I remember that got me, and when she's like skittering across the ground towards you, is it through the vents or whatever? Like I remember that got me. There's a couple of those where they executed it really well.
I know. Um, I remember the latter one. That the couple things I remember going into this game was I remember every time you show up with other people, they immediately die, which it only happens twice, but it's like the start of the game and like when you land on that like basically like the second level when you come in the helicopter, it's like anytime there's people with you, they die instantly. And
Like,
then
all right, the team's here and incapacitated.
but playing this one, they're like I think you're right, Vinny. It was I think a lot more like haunted house, especially as you're older. But it did have one. I think it was like a guy. I want to say a streaming when this happened, but a guy like a dead body went flying through the glass window into like another office room, and that was like the only one where it did like actually get me to
Yep.
like jump.
Man,
got
that's a
me.
I think I
normal
remember that.
got
workplace
me.
experience.
That got me this time, and I didn't remember it. But then once it happened to me again, I was like, that got me last time too. I remember that 20 years ago retroactively. Yeah, when
I
one
do
of the like
recall that.
stealth guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that stood out to me because it was so loud, at least through
Yep.
my speakers. Just was like, whoa, it wasn't even like so much like the act of it happening, just the soundscape was like, whoa, that blasted my ears.
it's just
Uh,
like complete silence, and then like a wall of shattering glass.
Yeah.
and I do think it's sometimes um I think I've been so conditioned about jump scares coming at me where they don't get those rarely like get me. It's like when it's like that when it's going across the screen where because I think it's like triggering more like is an enemy to start to shoot it and then like the noise and everything going on. I think it when I'm playing a game, it's like I'm getting hit with so many more responses. That's when it can kind of like get the jump scare panic for that brief second because I'm like kind of overwhelmed for a second. I don't know if I'm supposed to run, shoot it, or if it's story content. And
Just
so,
fight or flight kicking
It's
in.
just like a pure startle event. Yeah.
and then naturally I went up and double tapped the body just to be sure, Benny, because
As you do.
Penetrated it.
There it is.
which I know on my stream when I first got the penetrator and I was just nailing the guy. It did bring out that like
Hold
sicko
on,
like
someone clip that, please.
this is why my mom didn't want me to play violent video games because I'm having way too much fun and having way too maniacal of a laugh penetrating these guys to the wall.
No, sometimes when you hit them just right, like they go ragdoll, except where the stake is, and it just shoots them right into whatever surface is behind him, and it's such a cool effect. I mean, it's terrible, but it's also awesome.
It's good that they
I
could
mean,
bring
they
me
did a
joy in that
super.
moment.
They did a super good job with, think, the environment, and this I think plays into the gunplay and why the moment to moment is so much fun in the engagements, regardless of what weapon you're using. But like, because when you're shooting at a guy or they're shooting back, like there's chunks of the wall that are like shooting dust into the air, like the fire extinguishers explode and put like volumetric gas everywhere. uh there's just the terrain isn't like destructible, like not battlefield level destructible, but like looking at a hallway after there's been a gunfight and there's like they're almost dynamic pock marks of like everything, and like the nails stick out of the wall and the guys that you nailed to the wall sticking to the wall. It's like super interesting, and like I don't think other games of the time were really doing
Yeah.
that. Like,
That was like one of the big deals about this
Yep.
game is like it doesn't just
Um,
do bullet decals. It's not like dynamically altering the 3D mesh. It's like a fancy bump map that actually like takes a chunk of the wall out.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I was
yeah.
playing
a really
around with
cool
it.
It's
effect.
very convincing.
Yep. Yeah, I was playing
Yeah.
around with it to see like how dynamic it was, and I think it plays into the gunplay like you're saying, Blue, because generally when it comes to shooters, I hate like bloom shooters. It's like, well, I can't play something like a Fortnite. I hate having a big circle where my bullet can hit anywhere in there. I want like the skill of like if I aim well enough, the bullet's going right where I aim. And this one does have like bloom aspect to it. Even like when you sight in this one, but it just handled one. It's very hard to do right in my opinion. This game does it right, and I think because of that, like when you're shooting the wall, it's like or shooting at someone like the first bullet might hit them, then the next goes off and hits the wall. So it makes that destruction feel a lot more natural and like dynamic and more
Yeah,
satisfying.
that is pretty big.
Which,
Sometimes.
yeah, I think you would struggle. You struggled to get that. I think in at least like PC shooters when you can just aim down sights and shoot exactly where you're aiming because you can be so precise. But yeah, it was really fun to get in big firefights and then like look around and you'd see the destruction. And it wasn't a crazy level, but you could destroy computer monitors, fire extinguishers, and beat the environment up quite a bit. So it was satisfying to like, all right, I've look around and I can tell there's been a firefight. It's not just like those 007 GoldenEye like bullet holes on the
Or
wall.
turn them into a paintball splat. No,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like actually if you take a sledgehammer to a chunk of drywall, like there's a piece coming out. Like that's how it appears in the game, which is really cool because I don't remember any games before this really having that. And I'm trying to think of games afterwards really. I mean,
Red
I,
Faction might have, but not in the same way. Uh, but yeah, that even after this, it's not until you get to like the Battlefield, like Bad Company.
yeah, like that's when
Right,
you really start
right.
seeing it again.
Speaking of enemies, I did kind of want to touch on the AI, which I'm sure was going to be coming up in conversation at this point. But this game is kind of known for that, right? Just having really good AI,
Yep.
and seeing that in action was so neat to me because I was aware of this game having a very, I don't know how I can put this, an AI that really tries to find alternate pathing to get to you. Whereas I don't see that in a lot of games. Very often you'll see the AI kind of, it will shoot you, it will hide behind cover, it will maybe try to charge you, go forward in some way, or it will just kind of cycle through the map. But it isn't aware of when you're taking cover and therefore try to flank you. I thought that was so interesting. Like it knows when you are hiding or when it cannot find you and will try to find its way to you. And for a game that came out in 2005, that is dang cool.
Yeah,
I think a humongous part of that also is the fact that they are constantly radio chattering and you can always just
Yes.
hear them talking amongst themselves. So it's like they are communicating about you and you can hear them communicating about you, And then
Yeah.
so you can kind of like think in your head like, okay, so they're gonna think about doing this and react to that. It's like an interesting little like mini game almost.
Yeah, and as a player, it's cool. Like you say, you get that kind of visual cue because you can see them heading a different direction, or you might just be surprised by one, but you get the audio cue too. So like they're talking about you, you can hear their footsteps running. It's cool.
And they were so on the ball about grenades. Every single time I was like in cover around a corner, I'm like, all right, we're gonna slow-mo walk around this corner. They'd be like, flush them out, grenade. I'm
Grenade,
like,
yeah. That happened to me a lot too. As soon as I popped out of cover, a grenade was already landing at my location.
Yeah, I think the AI, as far as an FPS shooter goes, is probably still better than like 95% of shooters I play that come out now. Because you're exactly right, Pixel. Like most shooters, the AI shoots at you, they get behind cover, and they shoot at you, and then they'll just path up to the next cover. And this one, I'm sure a lot of it is playing into the immersion of the audio chatter, and you're kind of get immersed in it a little bit. But it really does feel like the AI will come up you. They'll like cut four will come at you, and they'll split into two groups to flank, and they'll chatter about what they're doing. They'll throw grenades at like the doorway you're in, so you can't like, because there's multiple times there'll be like an open area. I'm shooting at them, and they'll start approaching me and throwing grenades at that doorway. So now I have to retreat from that doorway. So and they continue to push up, and then they're flanking. Rarely are they just running right through that doorway, and that with like the gunplay, I think is what makes this game hold up so well because it the AI in this game is really second to none, even in modern
Yeah,
shooters.
it's a
I
very different pace from what you would see from a lot of shooters because if you've grown up with shooters, you're kind of conditioned to that aspect of, okay, this area is too hot right now. I've got to slow down, back up, reload, recharge my health, whatever, right? And then you can push forward and slowly whittle them down. They counteract that in this game. They will throw grenades, they will find alternate paths, and they will play aggressively at times. And that is so neat. I love that.
And I think one of the things that plays into, and this might be kind of speaking to why you might be resistant to use slow mo in some situations, is I feel like once you hit the slow mo button, it like does something to their AI where they cannot hit you in slow mo, or if they do, it's like their accuracy is cut in half or quartered or something. Because it always felt like they are like pinpoint, they know where I'm at, they're pinning me down, they're doing all the smart AI stuff, and then I would be like, all right, slow mo, and then I could just walk across the room, and I would be completely like just completely out of cover, and I would be completely fine.
Yeah, it does change the player dynamic versus the computer because as soon as you use that slow-mo, you don't have to worry about alternate pathing, not really. You don't have to worry about grenades. Your tactics change. So they change the situation to benefit you almost entirely. And that's kind of why, no, I think you're right, Blue. I think that's partially why I really didn't use it much because I was like, man, I'm just enjoying how these guys are pressing me. And if I use slow-mo, that just takes it away.
And when I was playing hard, I felt like when I'll go, because there would be times I would have to go slow mo in some of the bigger fights, and at least on hard, and it could be like a difficulty thing. If someone started shooting you and you went in slow mo, it's like you kind of got guaranteed like the first two shots would miss you, but then they would be line back on you. So playing on hard, it was like it would allow you to like kind of get through a small gap to get to cover or break line of sight. But if you try to like charge or like, especially if you didn't move, that first shot they sent at you might miss, but then they'll that second, third start pinning on you again. Um, but I do think that, but that was part of the challenge for me, especially when it wasn't like a big fight where, again, there's sometimes the slow mo was so fun to use, but again, it also felt like a crutch. But I'm also like, this is like one of the main mechanics of the game. They clearly want me to use it. It's a free resource other than waiting 5 seconds for it to recharge or however long it would be. So I'm like,
Yeah, it's not like getting a star in Mario or something. Like it's intended for you to use,
yep.
even if it. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. It does feel sort of like cheating when you use it, but seeing as I already beat it once, I didn't really care this time. So,
Speaking of resources, at least playing on normal, I always felt like there were enough health packs around the levels, at least for the first 3 quarters of the game, where I could almost not fully, but I could. Oh, it was almost to the point where I could heal tank fights. Um, I know when I was playing
mhm.
Shogo, I was like, all right, we have to do this entire level. If we get into a bad firefight, we get into the point where we have to quick save behind every corner, or we're just gonna get one shotted all the time. In this game, I was like, all right, we're walking around with 30 health. We're good. like there
Yeah,
was always a med pack somewhere in the next 3 hallways that I could I just got to kill a guy and then I can get a med pack. Basically, it felt like, and that I assume that on the higher difficulties they get a bit more stingy with the health pickups and stuff. But at least on normal, it did feel significantly easier compared to Shogo, where there's just health everywhere.
yeah. This was a very strange. So I believe I called it the world's most poorly lit office building.
Yeah.
That's where this game takes place 90% of. But as far as office buildings go, it's very interesting. There's health packs everywhere. There's weapons everywhere. All the lights don't work. This place is a nightmare for HR, especially with those voicemails that you listen to.
And the maze-like cubicles that you like. It's one thing I
Yeah.
am always conscious of when I'm
Oh, I
playing.
got to get to my desk. Let me swim under the water. It's like
I'm always
somebody's
conscious
supposed
of
to work here.
when I'm playing one of these games. It's like who designs like a office or a castle or a warehouse like this? Like obviously it's just like part like that's just video games, but there were times in this game I was thinking that too. I'm just like this whole
Like this,
building
does
setup
somebody
is
crawl down these pipes to get to their desk every morning? Like, what is this?
Look, the building was built by a corporation that doesn't scoff at kidnapping people and all sorts of nefarious nonsense. So clearly, their
Yes.
office building was just built by villains are us. We're gonna build your corporate
I mean,
headquarters as
yeah,
a
they
maze on top of it.
they didn't really hide from that, did they? I mean, Alma was. I mean,
No.
can we talk about the fact that she was apparently like 15 when she started getting super soldiers pumped out? Like they don't really
eh,
expand on that. It's like, okay, great.
And I think it's the U.S.
I guess
senator
I
or
didn't even
whatever
realize
who
she was that old because she looks like she's like
bankrolled.
11. She does not look
Well,
old at all.
Yeah.
I think when she comes, well, I don't know how spoilery we're getting, but
Oh yeah, we can I think go full spoiler.
because
Yeah.
she's definitely much older when she's like out of the containment thing. Like when you see her towards the beginning of the game, she's clearly like a younger kid, and I'm assuming that's when they did they kidnap her? I missed how they got her,
Yeah, I think
but
that at some point, and you have to. So something I noticed is when you interact with either the phone, well, so the phones always have the same message, but when you interact with the laptops, they have a serial order. But if you miss a laptop, you don't. You basically get the message that you would have got on the next laptop. So if you miss a laptop, you just are one laptop short of the story exposition that it will ever tell you. But yeah, they do tell you in one of the laptops that essentially I think they just straight up kidnap her, or she was like an
Uh,
orphan or something.
on the wiki, it sounds like they started to experience. So her mom died in childbirth. Her dad gave her away for testing, and it says she was 5 when she began to mercifully fail the test. So she is at least captured by the time she was 5 years old.
and that's more like how old she looks when you first kind of see her the first few times. I'd say
Yeah,
maybe closer to that age. And
So she was
then
26 at the time of death, according to the wiki.
okay,
It did crack
but
me up. I know
yeah,
I was watching Taylor play at one point, and there's, it's fairly early in the game. It's like when you go to that first office high-rise building, where you go into the room and you're listening to like the phone ring, or like the message on the phone, and um, you just see her like walk out the window and she's staring at you, me and Taylor each had the same reaction. We're like, "Get out here, little girl!" But it was like almost silly because it's obviously meant to be scary. But it's like you're so, and she's like, "What?" And she's just staring. You just see her head, but it's just like, stop creeping on me.
go back to bed.
Yeah. I know the story of Fear at the time was like remarked on as being very good, but I feel like it's almost like fridge story. It's like so the game sets up as Paxton Fell is like the main antagonist throughout throughout the main storyline, right? And like you sort of learn that like his main objective is to like take revenge on all the people and then like get Alma like or find Alma and like release her or whatever. And it kind of made me scratch my head when I got to the end of the game because I was like, the other guy, the head of the program or whatever, just lets her out like because he's dumb, basically. Uh, so I was like, so really, if Paxton Fettel had just done nothing and like was just locked up, like the same. Well, I guess that's not necessarily true. The same thing wouldn't necessarily have happened because I guess Harlan Wade decides to let her out like amidst the crisis. But I guess there is
Because
sort of
she's
a purpose.
suffered enough, but it's like,
Right.
weren't
You
you
could have
like
decided to
using
do
her to
that
make
in
babies?
yeah, you could have decided to do that in any time in the past 20 years. So what, you just
Yeah,
decided now
why
that
today?
Only after
yeah.
you make me an army can you rest.
Right, only
Yeah,
after like there's
I feel
people
like
getting murdered in your office.
I feel like the reason was he just him and was it his daughter, right? Who is like who you find original, who you are rescue.
Yeah,
So
Yep.
I feel like because of Felton, uh, he's doing that because everything's going downhill. Because like almost all the answering machine messages for like the first like half of the game are people basically saying like, "Hey, stop the program." And it's like it's under control. It's under control. And I feel like the game's logic is he's finally realized it's out of control because of everything going on. But I did feel the same way though. I was just like, it was kind of a head scratcher. Like, I'm just gonna release her now, and then she immediately turns into goo or whatever.
Yeah.
why is she trying to kill you, the point man?
I think they make a
Is she
point of that toward the end. I think that they say that she's just so kind of like filled with hate and anger that the spirit or essence of her is what lingers beyond. So she doesn't have a way to identify you or recognize you. It's just this kind of lingering spirit of hate and anger.
I don't remember who you play as in the sequels, but I do remember something very specific that happens in one of them that I won't get into. But if you're the same character as in the first game, that's kind of messed up. That's all I'll
So
say.
if I recall correctly, in the second game you play a different. I think you just play like another army guy or
Another
something.
fear person.
Yeah, and then you go back to playing the point man in the third game.
Okay.
I
I
don't
don't
know if that
remember which
changes.
game was which.
Yeah, I don't know if that changes that, but um, yeah, I think at some point in the first game, Paxton Fettel says to you like, or maybe it's like in a vision or whatever. He's like, Alma can't sense you. Maybe you can sense her. So I feel like you're correct in saying like she's basically already dead, and whatever remains is like a weird psychic imprint or whatever of her hatred of the world. She just wants to like destroy everything. So at that point, her like awareness doesn't really care who you are.
You
So
know,
the game.
it's
Oh,
funny
go ahead.
because there is one point in the game toward the end. Do you remember when you're running through that hallway and you get to the end of the hallway and you turn around and she's coming toward you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
During that
Yes.
part, I thought to myself, is this game gonna pull like a weird twist? Do I have to like hug her? Is that what I have to do? So I actually intentionally ran up to her,
And
died,
you
and said,
just die.
okay, that's not what you do.
That's
Never
not
mind.
where we're going with this.
No, it's apparently you need infinity bullets at that part. 'Cause-
Yeah, I
yeah,
remember being like,
Yeah,
"Oh, we're
Shadow's
supposed to
right.
get away from her, clearly,
She might
right?"
have just needed a Snickers. She might have just been
Yeah.
very hangry.
she was very
Yeah.
mad at that point.
Couldn't tell the difference between a giant Snickers bar and a person walking around in body armor.
So I still maintain what I said earlier in Discord that the game is basically just the plot of Final Fantasy VII, maybe spookier, but same same elements. Got your Genova, you've got your Sephiroth. It's all there,
What is it they say?
and your Ghostbusters. This is
there's
the
only
best
this is-
game
7
ever
stories.
made.
You know what,
Dave
Vinny, you
has a
might not actually
playlist
be
now.
too far off from that.
We got
You
to-
might not actually be too far off because when you say Genova, what I think of is you being the point man. You are like the tentacle or the piece of Genova that's trying to get back to Sephiroth, which is kind of like
the
Mhm.
what you're
reunion.
doing in that game.
Yeah, I mean it. I'm partially not kidding. There's very similar story elements sort of woven in there. It's a stretch, but it's there.
I think something else to talk about, which I think is always a struggle with a game like this, and I was wondering how, not playing it, so not remembering too much. I knew there were some enemies, different types of enemies, but kind of the enemy variety. So you basically had your replica soldiers, and most of their variety is just in the what assault gun, shotgun, like what type of gun they had. Then you just had the straight like security guys, the poor bastards who were just
Yeah, I didn't understand because they weren't mind controlled, right? They just
they
worked
were
for the company.
the company, yeah, the Arma-chan or whatever.
Armacam.
Yeah,
Armacam. Yeah.
they didn't quite make sense to have been so like gun ready to attack me, whereas the brainwashed or brain controlled, mind controlled, whatever, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Those guys made sense that they were after you, but these other guys, like, why did they have this like military force out to get me? Like, aren't
Yeah,
they
like
just like office workers?
yeah, they mention at some point that like they're trying to like clean up and like basically cover up what's happening. And but I'm like, look, if you are like, oh yeah, we need these PMC guys to go in and kill one dude. If you're like, oh yeah, he just got done killing like an entire office building full of mind controlled super soldiers. That's who we need you to kill. It's like, wow, who are you convincing to do this?
well, I think
But
those
yeah,
guys are working for the company, and you're technically working for the government.
Yeah.
So the company probably
Yes.
still wants to kill you too, or those guys probably just don't. They've been fighting these crazy government guys, and here comes another one who's frickin' Neo from the Matrix, and they're like,
Yeah.
throw everything you have at him.
It's one day
Yeah.
away from retirement. Every
I
guy
do
in the
think
game.
it is kind of disappointing that they didn't really throw anything super unusual into the mix, or at least nothing that brought like new mechanics to the board. Really,
You had like the invisible
you
lightning
were
guys who I thought were fun,
Yeah.
and I wish they did more stuff like that because you really just had because the security forces and the replica soldiers were not that different. They're essentially the same
interchangeable.
thing.
Yeah,
Then you had the mech robots and the super heavy armor guys who again were fun to fight, and then basically the turrets. And I think that was about it.
There were
Other than
those
the-
flying robot things too,
oh yeah, those flying robot things.
like towards the end, whatever you
And
call
then like
them.
the ghouls, specter things at
Drones.
the end.
Those don't count.
One shot.
But so that the enemies I think were very fun to fight. Especially again with the ragdoll, when you shoot guys, they'll react to it. Like they'll hobble away if they were injured. They'll fall down and get back up. But I do wish they came up with a handful more of like unique replica soldiers, kind of like the guys who went invisible with the lightning. I wish there's a couple more ideas like that they went with because
Yeah. I think if they maybe took some of those sort of generic, army guys and maybe replaced them with, again, more invisible enemies or just maybe more robots or just having a little bit more variance, it probably wouldn't have been as bad because when I think of the game in hindsight, now that I've played it, I don't really think about any of the enemies aside from maybe the robots, but almost entirely like those just guys in body armor. And it's like, man, I actually forgot that those invisible guys even existed because I think there's like maybe 4 or 5 in the entire game.
They
I
don't come up very often.
it's
I
like
remember there being a lot
3 or 4.
more of them, and I'm thinking they must have been used much more heavily in the expansions because I remember them giving me like a hard time playing through
Yeah,
it,
they
and
did
then
for
I
me
played through
too.
this, and it's like there's 4.
Yeah, yeah. And initially, I was like, well, these guys are really quick. Like, they actually react very, very well to you. Like, you can basically just prep yourself to shoot one, and they'll just quickly jump away. And I'm like, okay, you actually have to like try with these guys, and they're so neat. That's partially why I always kept a shotgun on hand, aside from the shotgun just being fun, was just preparing for these guys. But it never really happened that often.
But that was satisfying though, and one would be invisible running up to you, and it's like I have the shotgun. Like, come make my day, buddy.
Right.
uh,
So anyway, I started blasting.
and then I found out it was just a civilian.
Oops.
Uh, I guess. Are there any other aspects of the plot, mechanics, or things people want to bring up? I know I
Some of
Yeah.
the
covered it.
music.
Oh, go ahead.
Some of the music, while to me it doesn't really stand out too much, there were some tunes that did kind of remind me of Fallout 3 a little bit. I think mostly like the overworld song in Fallout 3, kind of like when you're just out and exploring. There were elements of that in this game, and I was like, oh, cool, that's kind of neat. It's got some like kind of Fallout 3 vibes in here, even though the game is not at all like that. But also some of the scenery and the lighting, use of lighting, reminds me of another horror game that I played that actually came out the same year, which was Condemned. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This looks a little bit like Condemned, at least in the beginning it did. And I really appreciated that.
Who put out
Yeah, I
Condemned?
think in the same sort of sound vein, I thought most of the weapons and most of like the sound effects of just stuff happening, like like phones
That's
and computer screens blowing up and all that stuff. I thought the sound design was pretty on point.
you know I
As you say that.
I was gonna say why it probably reminds you of Condemned. I was pretty sure this was true. It's put out by the same studio.
Yep,
Same guys
that'll do
doing
Yeah,
the
it.
same
Monolith
thing.
put it
Huh?
Okay. All right.
out.
Yeah. If
I just wanted to say,
go ahead, Vinny.
can we? How did Norton fit in one of the vents?
Dude,
There's
that
that
was
one scene
magical
where there's
because I was
It
watching
was.
him for like 2 whole minutes, and he doesn't fit in there until you walk away, and then he finally goes in. Yeah, we
Really
need to
that
talk
magical.
guy's
about Norton.
easily. I want his belt buckle.
He was
Yeah.
so ridiculously fat and just such a piece of shit, just
Yeah.
constantly.
I remember
I
being more. I remember liking him more when I played the game the first time, like a long time ago, and I was like, I don't remember why I like this character so much. He's just a jerk. It's just trying to get you killed
he
the
Well, they
entire time.
he's
Eh,
like well written in a way, sort of.
Yeah.
Like when he's on
yeah.
screen, you're like, oh, here we go again. You know.
What I kind of like are actually like I didn't care for his character so much. I'm like, oh, this guy, great, here we go. But what I actually kind of liked when he was around was actually looking at the various empty bag of chips
Oh, yep.
around him. That was the best part.
And there'd be times you get to like an area like he had ran through, and you'd find like just random bags of chips. But yeah, so for anyone watching, I'll see if I can bring up a video
Eat
of
cheesy
him.
poos. That's what they're called.
He was
Yeah.
a very rotund character.
He's like the only guy that you actually really, well, that's not necessarily true. There's like what, 2 NPCs that you interact directly with. It's him and then Alice Wade. I think are the
Mhm.
only 2 like non-hostile characters that you actually like interact with in the same room as them.
Yeah, I mean, non-hostile might be a stretch for him.
Yeah. He doesn't
He's
immediately
just kind
try
of a
to murder.
dick.
He's not trying to murder you when you're in the same room as him.
Not
Yeah.
directly.
I have Norton on screen for everyone at home, but
I don't
And they definitely
see
give
it in
him
Twitch,
they
actually.
it
and they give him
should
like a
now. My
playful
stuff's all gonna
sound
break, but
too.
yeah, he has like a silly noise, like
It's like the little overture that they play when
Yeah.
he's involved, and it's
yeah,
like
when
a
he's trying to
plucky
hide with
sort
the
of
cactus here when you walk up to him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like he's like the main comic relief of the game for sure.
I did try and shoot him in this moment, and it does not let you pull the trigger.
No,
Oh,
it does
I
not.
forgot it does that.
But
No,
REP, my boy, he didn't deserve to go out the way he did. Or he seemed trying to go out. Where's the vent part? Here's.
Hey, you're close. How does he fit in
There
there?
it is.
He's an absolute unit. How can he fit in there? And he's gone.
Then our boy gets shot. RIP. Although, is he gone when you come back through there? I think, or is he dead? I thought his
Yeah.
body was gone, or was he?
He dies
You'll
like in
have to
front of
play
you.
the other ones.
But his
I gotta
body is
know what
not
happens to
there when you
Norton.
go back out.
So yeah, I wonder if part of me, I need to look to see if he does come back, because that's the biggest question I have
That's
about this game.
the driver for
The driver for the sequel for me.
Return of Norton.
I mean, I think, yeah, well, because like he's all the other major NPCs that you encounter in the game die, basically, right? Like,
Yep.
who's left at the end? It's just
I think-
you.
You and the
And
2
your boss?
teammates. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. There's like a U.S. Army guy that like hangs out with you, the demolitions expert or whatever, is still technically alive at the end.
Him and the girl are with you in the helicopter.
That's fair.
Oh.
Not the only NPC that survives, but he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, one of the few, which there really weren't many. Because your boss you only see at the very beginning, right? And then he's just on the radio. Like he never like
Yes.
shows back. He's smart. That's why he's the boss. He's like, I'm not going to
I'm
these
not going
supernatural
anywhere near
areas
any of this stuff.
where
I like
people get melted
the-
into skeletons.
I'm just gonna read words on the screen that come up for me.
He's always
Tell
like,
them
it
what
says
to do.
here this chick does this, blah blah blah. He's always like saying these things that'll get him in trouble today. He's just reading them off the laptop every time you click it.
Yep.
I thought it was funny. Hold on, I'll cancel myself real quick and cancel.
Well, then he's always just sending you into like, hey, go kill the next room of dudes. Like,
Well,
okay.
he definitely
Good
does
luck.
not give a shit about you, because there's also a couple
No.
times I remember there's the early on when you explosion sends you through a building, and they find you knocked out in like the alley, and the girl and the demolitions guy are both like, "How is he still alive? We need to take him back for a medical checkup." And your boss is like, "He's fine. Send him back in." And they're
Yeah.
alone, and he's like, "Yeah."
That sounds about right by today's standards.
It's
He's an essential worker. Get in there.
yeah. But
I mean, to be fair, you probably have the highest body count of any single person in like all arms of the military, right? Like, even after like the first chapter of the game, you've killed like 100 dudes by yourself.
I do wish the game had. I always appreciate when, especially like shooters, have like a final score screen, like how many times you died, how many enemies you killed, and all that.
The stats, yeah.
Yeah, because it would be interesting to know what the average body count is through this game. If you're, because yeah, you're killing hundreds of people. I think they say there's like what 1,000 or something replica soldiers. And I'm like, by the end of the game, you kill like just about every
There
single
aren't
one.
any left.
We didn't need the nuke. We just need the nuke for the demon
That
gal.
takes out the ones you missed.
But
That mushroom cloud at the end, though, I remember thinking that looked awesome back then. It still looks really cool. I don't know why. There's the way it's framed or something. There's something about it that just looks like 3D almost.
especially back then too, I used to always be obsessed with like any game that had a nuclear explosion going on. Like it, whenever I got like a new RTS, it's like, all right, if I'm playing Red Alert 2 or something, if there's a nuke, I gotta see this nuke go off.
That's
But yeah,
all you're focusing on.
that's all my focus is spread those rads. Yeah, the end. I look really good. The only thing that I thought looked kind of funny was like how flat the city like it's just like flat landscape though with like the city.
Well,
Technological limitations of the era, yeah.
But yeah, I'm trying to think.
actually, I think I sent you a screenshot in Discord.
Yeah, you did when you beat it.
Yeah.
Because
That
at
was
first I didn't
to
realize
prove
what
that
it
I
was.
actually
It's
beat
like,
it.
what did Vinny send? It took me like a second to kind of figure out. I was like, what did Vinny just send me this random screenshot? I was like, oh, it's ending of Fear.
I was happy that I actually beat the game. Unlike Shogo, which I I tried to play it. I got it running. I had to run it as administrator. I couldn't launch it through Steam. And then I kept getting to one part in like the second or third level that it would just lock up. Like no matter what I did, it would just lock up. And I was like, okay. Like I was enjoying it, but yeah, that kind of
The
made
old
me
college
lose
try.
interest. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shogo, it's weird. It likes to run sometimes, but I think it's very particular, and you have to use like those fan patches. And but even then, like when I would play it,
Hmm.
I would have to like launch the game, and it would be in a small screen, and I had to skip through the intros, and then I'll enter to get it big. If I did that before I skipped through the intros, it would be like a black screen. It's like it was like a whole like ritual to like get the game to boot up right. Um, but yeah, so playing Shogo the month before then this, um, I still think as far as like theme, so I did miss Blue found or Taylor found it. I think me and Blue missed it. There was a Shogo Easter egg in this where you could find like Taylor said there's a room with a computer that you can play it and they'll start playing the Shogo song and video like on the computer screen like the intro.
That's cool. I missed that.
And there would be like I think he said there's a radio in the room where they start talking about like lore from the Shogo universe, but I still think I enjoy kind of the story, the theme, and everything in Shogun more. I'm not like a huge horror person, but I do think this game is just probably almost objectively the better game in the fact how much easier it is to play, Just so much of the modern quality of life aspects of an FPS this one has. I think Shogun again had that skeleton. It's probably one of the earliest, like with Half-Life 1, of like, all right, we got like the modern 3D shooter down, but it definitely still shows its age in a lot of ways. This game, for the most
I
part,
actually,
other than I think of couple spots where you kind of get to spine level, you're like, where the hell did I go? I think it's still almost anyone could pick this up now and play it without issue, without feeling, other than it still looks really good for being 2005. It looks amazing. But I think a modern person who's like 18 could play this game and have a ton of fun with it and not get lost or feel like it's old school or anything.
I would
I
love
think
to
that
see Shogo like remade, not remastered or anything, but just create a new game in this using the F.E.A.R like, building blocks. And that would be pretty darn remarkable. You had a thought?
I think I may be going to Shogo at some point in the near future because I actually just looking at that gameplay and when listening to you guys talk about it, I really kind of appreciate the color palette for that game. I actually think I just like how colorful it is. I like a lot of the world design, and it kind of just reminds me of a bygone era for games that I really enjoyed. So kind of seeing the beginnings of fear, so to speak, or seeing the early manifestation of what would eventually become fear, it would be kind of cool to see that.
I'd still recommend it unless you're Vinny C and you don't know how to use a computer.
Uh-huh. Now maybe I might I've got my XP rig now, as some of you have seen, so maybe I can throw it on there and have some better luck.
Yeah, it's funny when you launch a config file or like when you launch the game, it has like a auto menu pop up, and when you go to the config to select settings, it's so old. It has a drop down where it lists like the 13 graphics cards that existed at the time of the game, and it tells you what settings for each graphic card. Like if you're using this, it's like we recommend use these set. And though there's developer notes where they'll be like, "This card sucks," like it hardly. But
That's
it's so
awesome.
funny. It's like it's so old that you can just pick like. There's only 3 graphics cards that exist in the world right now, or 13. So it's like we can just you can just tell us what card you have, and we'll tell you what to set the settings to. But yeah, I guess kind of like wrapping things up, I do just to touch on essentially what I was just talking about before. When it comes to Fear, I think it holds up very well. I think the gunplay, a lot of the horror elements, I still think work. I do think they worked a lot more when I was younger because I would have been like 15, 16 playing this. The older I get, just like with everything, and kind of get more numb to it. Like I still remember watching my brothers play Mortal Kombat and thinking that was so insane, the fatalities and stuff. But even those are like super tame now. But I just think it is a really good game, and it seems like there's the Echo Patch, which is super easy to install. But even without that, it seems like the game just still inherently runs very easily on modern hardware. I was playing it on a Windows 11 machine that's kind of latest and greatest, and I don't think I even had a single crash.
Yeah. Runs on Linux. No patch needed either. I mean, you can get the Echo patch if you want, but yeah.
I do recommend
So
the Echo
I
Patch.
tried
all the things.
I tried the Echo Patch and I failed, and I it's because I
This guy
downloaded
can't
the
do
whole GitHub
anything
repo.
right.
Hold on. I downloaded the whole repo and threw it in the folder. And then I saw down below, click here to download what you actually need. And I was like, I already started the game now. Like I'm not gonna risk blowing away a save or something. So I just powered through it. but I did need to manually get one file, some Direct 3D something file to throw it in there because otherwise the frame rate was like 10 FPS on my 4090, and I'm like, that can't be right. But so I did drop in that one file, and that immediately got me to locked at 240 FPS. So yeah, no crashes though.
I ended up playing on the Series X. I did use a physical copy for it. Led me some physical copies and got it for pretty cheap. Played it on the Series X, and thankfully, because of Microsoft's backwards compatibility program, it ran solid 60, no crashes, no problems. Looked great, sounded great. Yeah, good experience.
Basically, it sounds like any method that you acquire the game, you'll probably be able to run it.
Yeah.
It was designed and coded well.
I'm surprised they haven't done a remaster or something of this. I mean, just like give it a slightly more modern lighting system or something.
It,
That's the only thing I could see that would improve it a bit. Are the shadows are kind of just like black. It's like it's either dimly lit or black, and it could really maybe use a slight touch up of a better lighting system.
yeah, and unfortunately, Monolith was killed off earlier this year. But who knows? I think Warner Brothers owns them or own them, so I think they'll have all the IP rights. And I don't know if they've done remasters or kind of re-releases, but yeah, I do think, and it's a perfect game for it because with the trilogy, it's like doing a remaster trilogy would be perfect. But yeah, because I do think even doing something like how the Oblivion remaster, if you're able to like throw an Unreal 5 overlay for graphics on it, would be awesome for a game like this. Especially if the code still basically works on modern systems and consoles well enough. That even makes more sense.
I would double dip, or I guess triple dip, because I had the physical one, and then at some point I, like a moron, sold it and got the Steam version, which I love Steam, but I regret selling physical copies of things. But I would buy it again.
That's how you're such a sucker. But it,
Attention Studios, I would buy it again. I know you're watching.
but yeah,
Vinny will fund the remaster.
Yes. Well, I might win the lottery tonight. Hold on, let's see. Did I win yet?
can I take a
Hold on,
bet that you
everyone,
didn't?
hold your breath.
Make a bet against me $1,000 that you did not win right now, Benny.
I I don't think they even announce it until later. Jackpot is pending, so
That
maybe
that's a possibility. That's
I
what
will
that.
hold
you're
your
looking
money and
at $1.4 billion. Vinny, see that who I beat. Maybe I'll make more videos if I win.
Just sipping on like gold flaked water, whatever billionaires drink.
Gold Flake Ecto Cooler. Yep.
Ghostbusters, what's that Hasbro program? You just fund because you buy 500,
Yep.
so it meets its goal.
Actually, I've got Ecto Cooler right here.
Drink it.
It's the 2016 one, so it's kind of fake, but
Um,
anyway,
but
sorry. Off topic.
but yeah, I think again, unless if anyone else has anything to say, I think that's a good spot to wrap it up, and we'll be starting, which I guess we have started because I know some people have started playing it. Chrono Trigger, which my copy just came today, so I'll be playing it on the 3DS. First time I plugged this in, KP, wondering if it was going to do what yours did, but it has not exploded or ballooned.
Oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, KP said he plugged his in like recently, and it just like the battery expanded.
Oh, the battery just
Yeah,
exploded. Oof.
this I probably turned this on. I wish I could know probably the first time in like 2017 or 18. Um, I
Oh, you're
told him
blurry now, Pixel.
to just go
Trying to
throw it
fix
at
it.
rocks really hard. That's what I like to do with swelled up batteries.
Shoot it with a BB gun.
But yeah, so that is next month's. And if you haven't checked it out, check out. There's a video on my channel. Miss Moon did the pregame for it, talking about Chrono Trigger, and did the write up in the Discord as well. So check that out if you haven't. Uh, I don't. Is anyone here in the planning on playing it?
I will be
I
playing
would
Chrono
like
Trigger.
to.
I will be playing it on the DS this time.
The DS is
I do have a PS1 save and a Super Nintendo save, so DS will be the first time for me. I've actually had this game for kind of a while, but I just never got around to it.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it multiple times now, but it's probably the longest game that's been on my backlog. It's been on my backlog since the 90s. I've never played it.
Yep,
And I've
same.
somehow never really been spoiled to it. I know, like, there's multiple endings. I've played, like, the first, like, 30 minutes a couple times because my brother borrowed it from a friend back, like, in the 90s. So I play, like, the town fair part, but that like literally like the first 30 minutes is all I've played like once or twice. So I'm excited, and I always say back as a kid, as one of those kids, like Final Fantasy VI is the best Super Nintendo game hands down. I would always come across those annoying kids that would be like, no, Chrono Trigger's better. And I would just dig my heels in because my opinion was right, god damn it. So I will be interested to see if I end up liking this more than Final Fantasy Six, because I know my
I have
brothers
the
liked Six more
I have
until they
the
played this.
I have the fortunate history of playing both Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI around the time they came out. Actually, my best friend had Chrono Trigger, and then I had Final Fantasy VI, so I'd go to his house to watch him play it. And I don't quite have the same level of love that Miss Moon does. I know she really likes the game a lot. I do enjoy the game, and I, still believe it holds up. I don't want to get too much into it, for fear of spoilers, but I think it's still a great game. Um, Filbert, I think you're going to enjoy it.
And
Yeah,
how
Let's
I've
go
about
play
you?
it right
I've
now.
never played it. Yeah, let's start right now. No, I was one of those morons who thought turn-based and everything was boring back then. So I kind of missed out on all the Super Nintendo RPGs. I think Final Fantasy VII, I saw a friend playing it at their house, and that's what really kind of made me say, huh, this is kind of neat. And then I got Final Fantasy VIII for Christmas, which inadvertently is the best Final Fantasy, so you can fight me. But no, like that's when I really kind of got my feet wet with turn-based and kind of picked up on the fact that, hey, this isn't stupid. So I missed out on all, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI, uh, was it Breath of Fire? All those I missed. So we need to
I
do
don't
more of
know if
these.
you I don't know if you can consider Chrono Trigger or Secret of Mana turn-based. I think they're technically more, I guess, active time battle
Oh,
because
well,
everything is sort of in real time, but yeah.
Yeah, I'll be well, because I was much like Vinny. Like, even though when I was a kid, Final Fantasy was my favorite, but it was because of the story. Because I remember as a kid, I was
mhm.
just like combat, except boss battles I like, but it's like combat system is boring. It's boring. Like, get to the story, get to the story. And like as a kid, I was just like real time fighting, so much more realistic, and I was so excited. Like when the PS1 and stuff started, like that generation where it's like we can have realistic like RPG fights that aren't just taking turns. But yeah, I much like a lot of people grew to appreciate turn based. Uh, Not as much as a lot of people. It's still not my preference. but I can definitely can have a lot of fun with it if it's done right. I'm just one of those people. I hate
Here we
grinding.
are getting well ahead of ourselves, right?
Oh yeah,
Digging into what we probably should be talking about in the
Yeah,
next
we-
one. Eh? Well, stay tuned for more of that.
How about you, Blue? I know you're not a big necessarily JRPG player. Are you gonna be checking out Chrono Trigger or
Yeah. Yeah, I have it. I'll have some B-roll for you.
have you played
Going
it?
through RetroArch. I have not. Well, I played like the first like 3 or 4 hours of it. Um, so I did play it a while back, but I lent it slash not lent it, but borrowed it from a friend, and then I was like, this isn't that fun, so I gave it back. But we'll see. I'll probably stick it out one way or the other this time. So we'll see.
I see that Miss Moon says in chat that early exposure to turn-based really does help. And yeah, I'm one of those annoying people that really laments the loss of turn-based RPGs. Now we're kind of seeing a sort of resurgence of them in, the modern gaming landscape, which is great. But there was a period where developers were so like, "Ooh, turn-based, get away from me."
Yeah. Yep.
All right, fellas. Well, appreciate you all participating in this month's EXP Monthly. Hopefully, everyone jumps in next month for Chrono Trigger, and everyone in chat. Thanks for hanging out. Shadow, KP, Miss Moon, Bucho. We appreciate it. And if you're not, join the Discord and participate in the discussion there. It's the best place to keep up with games that are coming up. Other than Chrono Trigger, November we are doing To the Moon, and then a to be determined RPG that will be November, December. Because To the Moon is about 3 or 4 hours, so we're gonna kind of do like a hybrid where November we'll talk about To the Moon, but that should be a one sitting game for most people, and then we'll use November and December to kind of play something. We've been listening to a couple ideas, but thinking Fable or Knights of the Old Republic, or maybe like Xenoblades 2. I know Shadow was suggesting.
You're just trying to get me to commit, aren't you? Because
W-
I'm interested in all of these titles.
Need
so
to beat the first Xenoblade still.
I've never played the first one. I played quite a bit of 2. And then
I've
I
put a lot of time into the first one, but it's like I feel like it can just be hundreds of hours if you let it. And
I
I'm one of those. I gotta get everything.
If you do
and
the
that's
side quests,
yeah.
yes.
But I believe they're all very loosely tied together. Like you don't need to, you can jump into any of them, from what I understand. Because I played Chronicles a lot as well, and but I think with the Xenoblades though, part of that, even if those like 2 months might not be enough, depending on which if we would go with the Xenoblade.
One game a year. Xenoblade.
If we're sticking to the 20-hour rule, Xenoblade,
Well,
that's
that's why
a
we're
bit.
looking for like the hybrid. It'll be like November, December, so it
Yeah.
can kind of pick something, but still, especially it's still love JRPGs. You're talking like 70, 60 plus hours, and I would still like to find something that's like 30 or 40. But leave suggestions for what RPG we should play, and I'll try and nail that down with a couple people. But yeah, one last time, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for participating and hanging out. And hopefully, catch you next month for the next EXP Monthly.